Oh, hi there. My name's Hardy Tech Yo-Yo, and I'd like to welcome you to the very first episode of Pokemon Anthology. But what exactly is Pokemon Anthology, you may be asking? As you probably know, I kinda like Pokemon. A lot. To the point where I've dedicated the past 3 years of my life to a YouTube channel about Pokemon. I've collected thousands of Pokemon cards, hundreds of Pokemon figurines. I have a Pokemon-themed GameCube, a Pokemon-themed computer, plushies, coins, amiibo, piggy banks, bags. I also have this Stitch figurine. Having such a strong love for Pokemon and such a passion for making videos, I thought I should combine the two and celebrate what Pokemon has become. So over the course of this series, we'll be taking a look at every single English-released Pokemon game ever. As far as the videos game go, there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to do Pokemon Monopoly. Sorry. From Pokemon Dash to Pokemon Snap to the main series to Mystery Dungeon to Puzzle League to everything in between, we're going to be taking a look at every single game, and it's going to start right here, right now. And it seems only fitting to start with the games that sparked a revolution: Pokemon Red and Blue. Pokemon Red and Blue have actually had several different versions. They started as Pokemon Red and Green in Japan. The two original games were actually drastically different from the final versions we actually saw here in America. That's because Pokemon Blue, a third version, was also released in Japan shortly after Red and Green. The original Pokemon Blue featured several updates from the original, including changes of graphics and sound, as well as fixing several glitches. Though, if you've seen my Everything Wrong with Generation 1 video, you know they didn't fix all the glitches. When the Pokemon games were released outside of Japan, they were actually ports of Pokemon Blue and not the original two, meaning Pokemon Red and Green have never been seen outside of Japan. After being released, Pokemon Red and Blue became the best-selling, non-bundled RPG game of all time. With a little bit of backstory now, let's jump into the story of Pokemon Red and Blue. Pokemon Red and Blue follows the story of an 11-year-old boy who, for consistency, we'll be referring to as Red, as well as his rival who we'll be calling Blue. Yes, Blue. Red and Blue used to be best friends, but that changed once Blue became a bully and stopped playing with him. During this time, Red actually gained an interest in Pokemon. Wait a minute. What is a Pokemon? Well, I happen to have a video here answering all of your questions. Our journey begins when Professor Oak, the resident Pokemon professor, summons both Red and Blue to his lab and allows each of them to pick their starter Pokemon. Red starts off in his adventure reaching Viridian City when he's asked to return to his hometown of Pallet and deliver a package to Professor Oak. We're only 5 minutes into this game, we're already running errands. What the heck? After Oak opens the package, he reveals it contains a pair of Pokédex, a digital encyclopedia which will automatically record data on any Pokemon you encounter. He asks you to take the Pokédex with you and go on your adventure to catch as many Pokemon as possible to complete the pages of this encyclopedia. But you have another goal, to travel around the region and become the Pokemon League champion. But how exactly do you do that? Well, throughout the Kanto region there are 8 gyms. You have to travel to each one and battle their gym leader. After defeating them, you gain a badge that allows you to challenge the Elite Four. The Elite Four is a difficult boss battle-like run where you have to face 4 very powerful trainers in a row without being allowed to leave. But if you defeat all of them in succession, then you get to challenge the champion afterwards. Defeating the champion means you become the champion. But if we haven't said a word enough, who's the champion? Well, before we get to that, we have something else to cover. On your adventures, you'll encounter an evil organization known as Team Rocket. At first, they try to steal Pokemon fossils from Mount Moon, later stealing TMs from a family in Cerulean City, before eventually finding their base in Celadon City. Here, you meet their boss, Giovanni. You defeat him in battle and they abandon the base, leaving behind a Sylph Scope, a device that when used allowed you to actually see ghosts. Yes, ghosts. Like dead people? Not quite. With this in hand, you travel to Pokemon Tower, a Pokemon version of a graveyard where you once again find Team Rocket, but also your rival. The last time you saw him was in Cerulean City where you two battled and you, of course, were victorious. You once again meet in combat and of course you're the winner, which is really making me start to think, why is he exactly a rival? With your former best friend out of the way, you defeat Team Rocket for the 4th time and stop them from harming the resting Pokemon. You meet Team Rocket one final time after they perform their biggest crime yet, overtaking the Sylph Co. headquarters. Instead of the police, or really anybody that should actually be holding responsibility, It is up to you to stop the evil organization. After fighting through confusing warp tiles as well as Team Rocket grunts and scientists, you once again come face to face with Giovanni, and what will be the final battle of Team Rocket versus our hero. After an epic confrontation, Giovanni claims that Team Rocket will never fall and vows that he will return. After leaving Silphco, the president of the company thanks you and rewards you with a Master Ball, a very unique Pokeball that has a 100% capture rate. With the evil organization out of the way, all that's left is for you to obtain the last 2 gym badges and face the Pokemon League. After surfing out to Cinnabar Island and defeating Blaine, the local gym leader, there's only one left. But who is it gonna be? You return to Viridian City, the first town you visited on your journey, whose gym has been closed for as long as you can remember, but now it's suddenly open again. After making your way through the gym trainers, you prepare for the final challenge before the Elite Four. The final gym leader is Giovanni! What? Again? How many times do I have to beat you? It turns out he closed down a Viridian gym so he could focus on his Team Rocket endeavors. After his defeat, he decided to go back here as he rebuilt his organization. So, for one final, true, ending time, you have to face Giovanni. Giovanni specializes with Ground-type Pokemon and actually only has 2 Ground-type moves overall, once again showing just how truly amazingly talented he is. After defeating Giovanni for the 18th time, it seems, you received your final gym badge, and the only challenge left is the Elite Four and the champion. Just kidding. Just after defeating Giovanni, you once again have to face off against your rival and his strongest team yet. After defeating him though, which is that really a surprise anymore? You have to make your way through Victory Road, the final challenge to prove yourself as you traverse through a dungeon filled with powerful wild Pokemon and even more powerful trainers. If you can survive this, then you'll reach the Indigo Plateau. Here lies the Elite Four, featuring Lorelei the Ice-type trainer, Bruno the Fighting Rock Ground trainer, Agatha the Ghost trainer, and Lance the Dragon Tamer. If you manage to defeat Lance, then you finally get to go toe-to-toe with the Pokemon League champion, the battle everybody's been waiting for. The enemy that everybody wants to know who has been remained hidden. The final boss, the most hyped matched in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, your opponent is Blue? Really? How many times do I have to kick this kid's ass? Yeah, so you beat him again, you become Pokemon League champion, Oak comes in, congratulates you, takes you into the Hall of Fame, and you're forever immortalized until you go through the Elite Four again, and somehow Blue is champion again, because I don't know. And so that is Pokemon Red and Blue, one of the most iconic... What? I'm forgetting something? Alright, go to Cerulean Cave, see this thing, turn off your game, you're not gonna beat it. But that's just a story of Pokemon Red and Blue. We have much more to focus on, like the graphics. I gotta be honest here, I'm so afraid to say anything negative about these fans, because Gen 1ers kinda have a reputation for being passionate. But this is a review, and this is obviously gonna be opinionated, so please don't be too harsh on me. To be honest, I kind of really dislike the graphics in this game. Yeah, maybe it's because I started with Generation 3, so I was spoiled a little bit by having this pseudo 3D graphics and actual, color. But a lot of the sprites are extremely ugly, the battles look extremely boring and bland by having no backgrounds at all, and honestly it's kinda dull. I do love the region design. I love traveling Kanto, even if the story is a little underwhelming in my opinion. The actual layout and all the towns are always a joy to see. I do understand that this is a very revolutionary game, and it had an absolute ton packed into a very small cartridge. But Gold and Blue were miles better, both graphically and powerfully, had nearly double the content, and was only on a console that was slightly mildly better than the Game Boy. Considering how other games were innovating and revolutionizing the industry at the time, I kinda think Red and Blue, as far as the graphics go, were really underwhelming. And they definitely don't hold up well over time. But that's just the graphics, we also gotta deal with the gameplay. I'm actually going to try not to be too negative this time, which I know, shocker, right? While Red and Blue are filled with their glitches and problems, they did lay the foundation for one of the most successful game series of all time. A simple turn-based strategy game by appearance, but actually extremely complex and has some astounding math going on behind the scenes. From catching Pokemon to attacking moves to the accuracy of moves, it's actually extremely impressive just how much is going on behind the scenes of this tiny little game. Pokemon Red and Blue is about a game of your Pokemon fighting against your opponent's Pokemon. By using attacks your Pokemon can learn up to 4 at a time, you have to get your opponent's HP down to 0 before yours is. Of course, it gets a lot more complex than that, including types, super effectiveness, resistances, accuracy, so many more things, but at its core, it's just attack everything. You can also catch wild Pokemon to add to your library of Pokemon to use against other trainers. This time though, you want to make sure to throw a Pokeball, a tool used to capture these Pokemon, before their HP gets down to 0. It's very similar to other Japanese RPGs, but at the same time it has its own lovable charm that many games have tried to replicate, but none could ever truly duplicate. While I may have my personal issues with Gen 1ers, they do exist for a reason. Pokemon Red and Blue honestly has completely changed my life. I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't have any of this stuff, I wouldn't be wearing this shirt if it wasn't for these games released nearly 20 years ago. These games sparked a revolution that at one point had completely taken over the world. You guys know this Minion Mania going on there right now that we all hate? About 20 years ago, that was Pokemania, and the adults probably hated it too. But if I had to judge these games simply off of the game itself and not the impact it had on my life and the world as a whole, I might be a bit more harsh. The music is amazing, it's iconic, it's catchy, and it's still things that get stuck in my head to this very day. The graphics, well, we already went over that. The story is a bit underwhelming in my opinion, but as it is a game aimed towards kids, and Nintendo, aside from the Legend of Zelda series, isn't exactly known for having super complex stories that really make you invested in them, I guess I should kind of let it slide. I mean, every single Mario game ever is just about rescuing Peach, and those sell tons. You don't have to have the confusion and complexity of Inception to have a good game. Now, throughout this series, I will be rating these games, but I don't want to use the generic number ratings because honestly, I find those too confusing and difficult to pick. Like, why is this a 5 instead of a 6? How do you come up with 7.4 or 5.3? There's just so many numbers there, and it's just too impossible to even choose. So instead, throughout the series, we're going to be using a Pokemon theme ranking system, which is going to feature Pokeballs. From Pokeball being meh, okay, to Great Ball being pretty good, to Ultra Ball being great, to Master Ball being please, for the love of Arceus, play this game. Although the more I think about it, I feel like Great Ball should be great, but, you know, rankings and it's a whole thing. With that said, I'm going to have to give Pokemon Red and Blue my ranking of Great Ball. Oh, come on. I'm trying to be nice here. Well, guys, thank you for watching the very first episode of my new series, Pokemon Anthology. You guys actually get to choose what game we'll be doing next. Down in the description, there's a straw poll for you guys to vote on. Voting will last for roughly a week or so. I will remove the link once the voting is over, just so I don't confuse you guys or anything like that. And I'd like to ask anybody watching this now, if you have a heart at all, please feel free to support Team Caterpie, because this is a new thing I'm doing, and I'm very nervous about doing these new kind of videos because I've done Let's Play videos for years and I decided I need a change. So if you would love to help me out, please feel free to share these videos with your friends, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Reddit, whatever kind of social media you use. If you have anybody who likes Pokemon, even somebody who may not like Pokemon but you think may find me for some reason adorable or hilarious or dumb or just want to yell at me, please feel free to share the videos around because I honestly can't tell you guys just how much I appreciate it. But that is going to do it for us this week, guys. I will see you guys next time of a game of your choosing. But until then, I'm Hardy Tick Yo-Yo.